Hello and welcome to PlayStation Access and to our first ever Spoilercast. A new format we are trying out where, as the title suggests, we dive into everything. We talk about all the spoilers from a recent release, and today, as you can see from the title, we're talking all about God of War Ragnarok. We've had loads on the channel about God of War Ragnarok. So many videos where I have been dying to talk more about specifics that happen, and this is basically a format that allows us to do just that. But before we dive in properly, we just want to do the big warning. If you are listening to this or watching this on YouTube and you have not yet finished God of War Ragnarok, go away. This is not for you. Come back. Yes, that's the official spoiler warning. This is
broken.
This is the official warning. We're going to be talking about end game spoilers, the lot. We're just diving in. So this is a space where you can enjoy the discussion if you have finished the game and share in the comments. It's a safe space to discuss anything you want from the game. But if you haven't finished yet, come back to this when you have finished God of War
think we should
Ragnarok.
be even more specific, Rob, just to say, because there's finishing and there's finishing. For example,
Yes.
I finished the story just yesterday, and then ahead of doing this spoiler cast today, there was a couple of extra things you wanted me to see. So even like once the credits have rolled, obviously there's a whole load of game left, and we will be talking about some extra story things that are in that as well. So if you've only seen the credits and you think you're done, there's more stuff that we will be speaking about. So tread carefully.
Yes. So with that out the way...
Oh, now I can shout.
With that out the way, I want to dive in, and I'd like to start right at the end.
Okay.
What was everybody's reaction to the ending?
Which part of the ending?
Yeah.
The end.
Do you mean...
Okay, so we'll start very specifically when Atreus and Kratos part ways.
Yeah.
What a moment that was. The reactions from both characters. I mean, there's so much to unpack here, like the journey that Kratos has been on since the start of 2018 God of War to the end of Ragnarok is quite amazing. But just that scene where Atreus is like, okay, father, I need to do this, and I need to do this alone. And he goes off. For me, it felt like, this. You continue playing as Kratos after that moment, and there's it feels like there's a hole there.
Yeah.
It's really well done because the gameplay sort of mimics the feeling that Kratos must be having at that moment as a parent, which I'm guessing is like a moment that all parents will go through when their child decides, okay, I'm leaving.
It did remind me of when I said to when I left my family home and my mum was
I've got to find the giants.
Mum, I have to go to fight the giants now. My time is spent. I have to do this alone. It did remind me of like the moment where, like, you know, the actual day when you're moving. I'll never forget my mum, bless her. She was trying to like Kratos was trying to hold it in and stuff, but you just know that inside they're just like fully just an emotional wreck, bless them. For me, on that specific part, it was the line specifically when Kratos just goes, Atreus is here, and he puts his hand to his heart, and then he says, Loki is there, as if to be like, I know you've got to fulfill a destiny or something, but you're my son. You will always be my son. Now go do what you've got to do. And then they have their big hug, and I won't lie, when I had that moment, my eyes just got teary. Like, you know, I wasn't like blubbering or anything, but I did just
you feel it, don't you?
I did just like, you know, when your eyes just start getting wet and you don't know why, I was just like, that was happening.
I think you knew exactly why they were getting
it touched me.
Rosie.
It definitely touched me, but it's not like, you know, the sort of when your lips start quivering and you pull the crying face.
I like how you describe me.
What
Different stages
level of
of
cry? Yeah,
It was 5 out of 10 cry.
Yeah, I've got several levels
tears
there.
welling, but not the full-on crying face. No, we reserve that only for when dogs die.
Yeah, that's only for me with dogs and stuff. But yeah, like it really touched me that moment. And they have the big hug, and like, yeah, I got teary from it.
I do think you nailed something, Rosie, which is like, it is, and I don't have any children, but I think it is. I have thought, like, having kids, the whole way it all works feels very flawed to me, and this nails that exact flaw, which is, I think, in many ways, to bring up a child is to teach them to go off and leave you behind somewhat, you know, like whether it's moving across the country, across the world, whatever, just like doing this other stuff. And it's a weird bittersweet thing where you know, like Kratos is like, wow, he'd done his job really well. Like he's taught Atreus to be this great guy who's got his own path to follow.
Just a
great guy.
Just a great guy.
But you know, like
That's my boy.
He's got his own like
That's my boy.
path to follow, and he's got the skills he needs to do that. And but it means leaving Kratos alone, and that's there's no way around it. He just kind of has to accept that, and it's a weird bittersweet moment.
It's like a beautiful parallel, though, isn't it? Because this whole game, you are preparing for Kratos' death. Like you've seen a prophecy. You've seen a prophecy. Both Atreus and Kratos see the prophecy, and you think the whole way through Kratos has to die for this to all come to an end. Kratos has to die, and he's preparing and going even harder on Atreus the whole time to make him into the man that he needs to be with Kratos gone. And then instead of it being he's dead and Atreus has to move on and take on the mantle that Kratos has left behind, it's like, no, he's free to explore the world and spread his wings, and Kratos is the one suffering loss instead of Atreus. Like it's that constant subversion that God of War and the God of War series is so good at, where it shows you everything the way something should be and then flips it on its head, like with all of the ways that it does Norse legends and myths. Like I need to talk about Tyr, I really need to talk about Tyr, but we'll get there. But like the whole way through that we are presented with this God of War who just wants peace and is afraid of fighting. Like that is a great subversion of the idea of what a God of War is. And you know, I'm just rambling, but
the other thing I loved about that moment was Angraboda's part in it. The specifically like that they go and have a conversation that Kratos, you're just like the camera's right over his shoulder the whole time, just watching his son have this conversation, which seems really lovely. And she gives him something, I think, and like, what is it? And he like kind of proudly sets off on his path.
They have a little hug as well, don't they?
They have a little hug.
That is one thing, like you're saying at the end segment, when there's two moments when they're both together and you just see Kratos, and he even at one point says, I will not intervene. I think that's also like, you know, as you're growing up, your children, you know, they find friends, maybe some people who are more than friends, but you've just got to, like, you know, you let them do their own thing and just trust that, you know, they'll take care of each other and stuff. So that really is, again, like Kratos just watching from a distance, not intervening, and letting his son make the choices that he wants to make in relationships and life and stuff.
Guys, I remember when Toasty got a boyfriend, Colin.
Oh no!
Toasty got a boyfriend.
Yeah, the one cat that she doesn't hiss at, who comes in the house. Like he just lets himself
Colin.
in. I know, but I was like, who's this?
Did you watch quietly, accept her choices?
Well, you're like, I will not intervene. As he comes in the house,
sharing your bickies. What's going on?
That is big. I also think that it. Obviously it's the end in some ways, but it's also the beginning, and it does a great job of being the beginning. It's the beginning of Atreus' next story, or Loki's story, I guess, the next part of his story. But I also think like it is the most compelling start to the end game. Like for Kratos, I felt like I really want to, you know, it didn't feel like, and I'll mop up some bits left in the game. I'm like, there's still so much to do here that I want to do. And like this new party, kind of new, with Freya and Mimir, and it's just like, and obviously he's kind of buoyed by having found this sort of second part of the prophecy. Buoyed by finding this second part of the prophecy, and it feels very much like there's much more to do and see, and there's much more to the story.
I totally forgot about the second half of the prophecy, seeing Kratos as a god and him getting a bit emotional. God, so nice.
That was great, wasn't it?
It was great.
An amazing moment.
Yeah,
an amazing moment. For me personally, the one line that really I thought was a beautiful, the ending of Kratos' arc, or in this particular story, was just before the final bit of Ragnarok happens, when you see all of the Midgardian refugees in trouble.
Yeah.
And Atreus is there going, close your heart to it, close your heart to it, close your heart to it. And Kratos is like, I was wrong. Open your heart to it. Yeah. Open your... That's an amazing sort of... an amazing sort of admission from Kratos that, you know, he was wrong. Yeah. I just love that moment. So
you have that little scene with Faye just before, like a memory, you know, when Kratos goes to sleep in the tent. And he has a memory or a dream of his time with Faye, and she basically kind of gives him that. That's the moment I think that brings it all together, where she's sort of, trying to encourage him to open his heart. And he finally sees it. He sees, like, that's such a great bit, like you say, Atreus sort of like, oh, close your heart to it, and like it all comes together in that moment. And he's like, no, that's who you are. Like, I've been trying to prevent you from being who you are, and I've realized that it's a lot of realization, isn't it? Like, there's also how quickly Kratos is like on side with Thrud, just because Atreus is like, she's my friend, and he's like, I trust you if he says you're his friend, then I trust you. He really learns that he doesn't know what's best for Atreus necessarily, and just that Atreus is his own man, and to trust him in all those ways. It's great.
I really like Thrud as well.
Oh, Thrud's great.
Just a quick line, just Thrud. Great character.
Every time I was
Really
with Thrud,
enjoyed.
I was just like, she's so cool. I was just like, yes, Thrud.
Did everyone enjoy the Asgardian tavern brawl?
Yeah,
that was
Such a
fun.
great
Yes.
moment. I love that so much.
That was really
It was
good.
so epic, but also just funny at the same
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, it was.
It was just silly. That just
Yeah,
like
just
that
a
it
bar
happened.
fight.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
so
just
good.
imagine them at Santa. I want to do a tavern brawl. Wouldn't it be funny if Thor and you were in a tavern brawl, and then it's not just like a little punch up. It's a massive, like, it feels epic when you're doing it.
Yeah.
But it's just like a drunken brawl.
It's
and
great.
Thor's there, drunk.
I'm sure there are great legends about Thor in a brawl. Like in a drunken brawl. I really hope so.
I
And
love
like
Thor in this game as well. I thought Thor was the bit where when you're first with him as Atreus in Muspelheim, and he's egging him on like, the trials of Muspelheim are. I remember when my dad did it.
Yeah.
It was great fun. And Thor's, okay, and then you just hear him in the background through that whole section. Just, you think you can defeat the god of thunder? It's just, he's having a great time. I really enjoyed how, well, like all of the gods, I think across all of the God of War games, they're humanized and given flaws, and Thor is no different. Like, incredibly powerful god, but also an incredibly flawed man.
Yeah, I think it does an amazing job of making it all believable in terms of the arcs and the decisions that people make. How were Odin's family going to turn on him in the end? It feels like a difficult job to make that stick, but it really did. Like, it was really believable the way that they all came to the realization that he's just a bad dude.
They're kind of Malfoyed the whole situation, you know what I mean? Because you like, in a good way, like they came to the realization that, like, they were on the side of supporting power until the power didn't support them, and then like run to safety, but in a different way where they're better people and they do better things. But like that dynamic of Thor being under Odin's thumb the whole time, and like his beast, his pet, and whatever, even though he's supposed to be his son, and Odin killing him to be like, that's how little he cares about his family. Whereas Sif and Thrud really do love each other and love Thor and support him. It's kind of like the final nail in the coffin that signifies that this will never be reparable and he can never be allowed to live and control in the way that he has.
Shout out to a great line in that at the end of that battle with Kratos and Thor, where I think he says like, you don't know what I've done, and then Kratos says something like, but what will you do?
Yeah.
And it's just like, that's what this is all about. Like, the whole game in a way is about choices and making choices, and like everyone has in this game, many people have a very difficult past, things that they're very not proud of, but that doesn't have to define you, and you can still choose to make a change. I thought that was like a great moment, especially with what was about to happen to him as well.
Before we get on to the next talking point, I just want to ask, did anyone get the little Will Smith reference in the fight with Thor?
No.
Well, you're fighting Thor, and during that final fight, Kratos says something about Thrud to him. I can't remember exactly what he says. He's like, my son and your daughter are friends. Think about Thrud.
Oh, yes, that's right.
And Thor says, keep her name out of your mouth. Whilst he's
I
fighting
did not pick up
Blimey.
on that.
Wow. Well, there you go.
Yeah. I really enjoyed
I
that.
thought you were going to give me like a Fresh Prince quote or
No.
something. I'd be like,
No.
how did I miss that?
Keep her
Like,
name out of your mouth.
What I sort of love about that is that puts a timestamp on when they decided to put that in.
Let's put that in.
Yeah.
But moving on, because we've got a lot to talk about. The big major thing, we've talked about Kratos and Atreus and how they've changed. but the other character who changes dramatically because of the events of the endgame, Sindri. Let's talk about Sindri and we need to talk about the nasty twist that happens towards the end of the game as well.
First of all, I did not see the twist coming whatsoever.
No.
Like the whole Tyr reveal.
Yeah.
Or Odin reveal.
I fully had the moment where when the do I say it now? Like just when the moment happens with the stabbing.
It's a spoilercast,
We've done the spoiler warning. We'll do another spoiler warning now just to make sure we're going to talk about a big twist now. If you're still here and you've not finished God of War Ragnarok, what are you doing? But Rosie's about to go big spoilers now.
I was going to say the moment where Brock sadly gets stabbed and he dies, he's like, will you ever shut up? I thought that was Tyr, and then suddenly Odin appeared, and I was there at first. I was so bewildered. I was like, where's Tyr gone? Where's Tyr gone? And then it was my boyfriend. He was like, oh my God, you've come... Tyr was Odin all along, and I was like, oh my God, he knew everything.
It's such a good twist. And like that ties into Odin's trickery, the way that everyone talks about him, because the whole way through you're presented with this, hey, I'm Odin, I'm a nice guy, like come to the mob family, and then like it actually gets to it and you're like, oh my God, this sneaky little bee has been sitting here the whole time
cooking you vegetable stew as well.
Delicious vegetable stew,
yeah,
and absolutely working away at everyone in the room and chipping and making an absolute mockery of like Tyr's beliefs and how he handles himself as well. The whole way through you're a bit annoyed at Tyr being a bit of a crybaby. You're like, come on, Tyr,
just do something, Tyr. Like the whole, I was getting to the point, it's like, I really don't like Tyr. I really don't. And then when the twist happens, like, oh my God, that's amazing. I didn't like Tyr.
When Tyr started talking, being like, you're right, I will lead us, this mask is the destiny and stuff, I was like, oh, finally, Tyr's, come on now, here we go, the prophecy. And then it just makes sense of why that specific moment.
Well, I think that works as well. Like that, fake Tyr has an arc that really works, where he starts battling with like, oh yeah, I know everyone expects more of me, and I should be doing more. And like Sindri's house gets attacked, and he comes out at the end with a shield, and he's like, oh sorry, I probably should have helped. And like, I was buying it when it was like, here's his moment to come good now, where he's like, yeah, we should do that. I know how to get to Asgard, and I'm like, oh, finally, he's gonna like. I was totally buying it.
Yeah, when he was like, oh, I didn't tell you before because you just be aggressive and
everyone was buying it. Everyone was buying it except Brock. And that was.
And when Rosie said like, oh, where's Tyr gone? Like, I had a moment where I was just going like. At first I thought, oh God, Odin's been pretending to be Tyr, but then I had like this Mrs. Doubtfire moment, like the whole time, I realised like, oh my God, he's always been Odin, and we've never met Tyr.
I think that's the thing, because I was so overwhelmed. First of all, I was like, oh my God, Tyr's finally taken a stand, so I was engulfed by that, and then suddenly Tyr just snaps. Well, but then Brock starts questioning him, and I was like, hang on, Brock's making like, how does Tyr know about Loki? Brock is making sense. Then suddenly Tyr goes completely out of character when he aggressively says, will you ever shut up? Then he stabs him, and that's why I was just like, what's going on? Where's Tyr gone? Oh, but Odin's here. Why is Odin here? So I think it was just the whole thing put together that just made my brain just explode and had a dumb moment.
I tell you what, I wasn't suspicious of it until the very end, when I was like, oh my God, you noticed this ages ago. Was I loved going into everyone's rooms and being like, what's this bedroom? Who's got the flowers here? And you couldn't go into Tyr's because the door was shut.
And it was meant to be a broom cupboard, to be fair, but still.
Yeah, you couldn't just see his bed or anything.
Yeah, it was a bit of a Master Miller in Metal Gear Solid moment where you can't phone Miller during the helicopter fight with Liquid Snake.
No.
I think there's another moment in the game, and I remembered it looking back on it, where Tyr isn't in the house at all.
Yeah.
Right.
I can't remember the specific moment. I think it's when Atreus is in Asgard with Odin, obviously.
Right.
And you're there with. It goes back to Kratos. I think it's around about the time where you're looking for the Norns, maybe.
Yeah.
Right.
But I remember thinking, where the heck is Tyr? Where is he?
Yeah.
And I think and then I just didn't think anything of it.
Yeah.
I just thought he was being in the broom
But
cupboard.
now looking back on him, I'm just like,
I do think it would be fascinating to play through the game again.
Yes.
Because every line of dialogue I will just be listening to like with a completely different perspective, like the whole time. Just, oh, you little sneak,
you liar!
Yeah.
But I want to bring it back onto the main thrust of this, which is Sindri. Obviously, Sindri, who up until now has almost been like a comic relief character. sort of, and I was annoyed by him in 2018 God of War, I remember, but then I sort of like he grew on me, especially through Ragnarok.
His relationship
His
with
relationship
Atreus
is great. And then to see that switch in him and to see how grief affects him, quite ominous and dark and scary, really. And there's no happy ending after it. And he is not happy. He is broken now.
First of all, I think it's an incredible performance. I just thought that because he is so bubbly and maybe not happy, but no, like nervous. He is funny. He is comic relief, and like he just feels like a sort of a light character.
Yes.
And suddenly, I mean, it helps that he is wearing like the doom in his face. Like, you see him at one point, his eyes are just red, and he just looks like he's carrying the weight of the world on his shoulders. But just the whole the voice acting performance is just insanely good. I think to have this whole other side to his character that we've never seen before. But I was wondering, like, do you think there is no happy ending for him? Do you think he is like justified in his anger to all his friends?
I could understand where he'd be coming from, for sure.
I think he made a great point where he's like, I've given you all my work, I've given you my treasures, and now I've given you my brother's life. Like, he brought Brock back from the dead and fractured his soul, so the next time that he dies, he's not getting an afterlife. And now that's in vain for him because it was wasted so needlessly. Like, he could have lived happily ever after with his brother, making silly little armors and chilling out in the forge, yet they've helped these people that have come and taken and taken and taken and not given anything back. They've ruined his home, which he loves to keep clean. They're walking mud through it straight away. Like, I thought that was disrespectful even for Kratos.
It's an interesting exploration, I think, of that almost a trope of video game character who you take for granted. Just the guy who's always there, the guy who's always going to help me, the guy who's going to make my armor, the guy who's going to do this, that and that. And as a player, you take Sindri for granted almost the same way as Kratos and Atreus take him for granted within the world of the game. And then when he's not there anymore, like, I remember thinking, who the heck's going to be at the shop now? Thankfully Lunda is, and she could make all your armor stuff. But I thought that was interesting.
As soon as Lunda got introduced as someone who could also work the forge, I remember reading her entry. Again, it's not something I clocked till afterwards, but I read her entry and it was like, as talented as the Huldra brothers at making stuff. And I was like, why would we? Why do we need another great dwarven smith?
Honestly, at least as good. At least as good, if not better. So it's going to be great. I think, Kratos and Atreus killing Baldur feels like more of a difficult situation for Freya to overcome than I think what's happened to Brock is for Sindri. Personally, I think that not that he's overreacting or anything, but just think that they've taken the brunt of it there, and I think to some degree, like, I get their part in it, but that is a friendship, isn't it? Giving and taking is a friendship, and like, surely Sindri was getting something back out of their friendship, because otherwise, why was he helping them all the time? Like,
what did he get back?
Well, friendship.
What though? But the friendship.
What do you mean? What though?
Wasn't there also?
I offer you friendship.
Let me tell you, he's had a whole load of hack silver out of me. He's absolutely rolling in it. He is rolling in it.
Wasn't there also like moments where Sindri was talking about, like, obviously Brock is his brother, but he viewed kind of everyone as a whole as their little family. There was, if memory serves me correct, there seemed to be a couple of moments where they were talking about all of them just being like a little family. So
absolutely, and they sort of brought Brock and Sindri back together as well. I think that that they obviously had to be getting something out of this relationship. They weren't in it just for the hack silver, and I also like really loved actually, especially now that I know Brock dies, like, spending time with each of those characters. That was the best thing about the whole companion system throughout the game, is you get to have quality time with each of them, not just like in a cutscene, not just on like a kind of escort mission or something, but like properly like going to a place and spending time with these characters individually. There's some great revelations. Like, that's another amazing moment in the game when Brock figures out that he's
missing part of his soul,
effectively dead, kind of, and then it, again, when he has his moment with Sindri and says, like, and forgives him. Oh, it's so good. It's very, very good.
I also, just before we move, because I see Rob is waiting to move on, I really want to say big shout out to Sindri's character design for the moment he snaps, because the whole game, and also we know Sindri is very paranoid about hygiene, and he's always kept everything super clean. He's always worn his gloves and stuff like that. Whereas the moment where Brock dies, suddenly he is coated in blood. He does not care anymore, which used to be such a big thing for him, was hygiene. And he's smithing with no gloves on. He's bare hands are out, and his like top is all torn and stuff at the arms. It was his design for me that made me think, oh man, Sindri's lost it. He's snapped. So I just want to say, big, like, that was the, like, his design after the Brock's death was the thing that got me like, oh boy.
Oh, an amazing bit of music at Brock's funeral as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Yes.
I accidentally laughed because the music started and I was like, oh, this is beautiful. And then the guy came out like doing the little like
hurdy-gurdy or whatever it is.
Yeah, and it just surprised me so much that I was like,
Talking about Rabe. You're talking about Rabe.
Yeah, Rabe.
That's Bear McCreary.
Yeah.
The dwarf.
oh my god, well, yeah, he just started playing the thing with the little spinner on the bottom, and I was like, oh my god, I thought it was non-diegetic, and then like, it really made me laugh when he was just there, and then I was like, oh, but it's really sad at the same time. I was like, oh.
Yeah, if they pan the camera around a bit further, you would have seen the whole orchestra. You're also there.
But I loved how that sort of subverted not just the expectations of that character, but the expectations you have in stories like that, where he will be overcome by grief, but at the end he will see. You'll see other things. They'll make up. They'll make up.
Yeah.
There was none of that.
No.
But the end where Atreus sucks Odin's soul into that marble, and you're thinking, oh, that's a nice... And then Sindri just appears, smash!
Yeah.
That's how it ends.
Well,
that's what happens
it's
next.
It's great. Who saw that coming?
Yeah.
I especially thought, like, even Freya is like, who's been banging on about it the whole time.
Yeah,
like,
she was just,
hate
I don't
Odin,
want to
hate
do it.
Odin. And she's like, oh, no, I'm not sure, actually. It's feeling a bit bad. Sindri. Boom.
Bang.
See you later.
It's done, and he just goes.
And I love that. I love that is an ending for Odin there.
Yes.
Like for us, you know, it's like he's not coming back. Nothing is over. That's it. Odin. You've seen it gone.
Also, sorry, just quickly, the Odin prophecy as well, like as in seeing Atreus with his father.
Yes,
being the
I
prophecy.
said the same, and it's this,
yeah, it's like, you know, Atreus and his father holding him dead, and it's actually not his father, it's the all father, it's the other father figure
Odin,
who has been playing himself as a father figure. Like it was
That's
just, I was
great.
like, the whole time through I was like, so when's Kratos gonna die? Like, when's he gonna go? And then it was the all father. I was like,
when that
The
camera,
light bulb's just gone off in my head because I did not pick up on that.
Yeah,
at all.
when
beautiful scene.
It's
Yeah.
like they angled it so it's exactly how it was
God,
on
what
the.
an idiot I am! I didn't see that.
Like literally, I had a moment when I saw it, I was like,
fool I've
it's
been.
the painting! It's the painting! It was Odin, not Kratos all along!
This is why these spoiler casts are so great, because now I'm
Yeah.
getting, yes, that is, obviously it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Thank you for saying that, Ash.
You're welcome.
Great. I can't remember what I was going to say now. But also just the afterwards where you do the funeral scene, which is like a post ending, if you like. Again, that's like the final time you see Sindri again. The funeral has happened. Freya shoots the flaming arrow into Brock's.
Yeah.
He gets a
Lovely
proper,
bow,
like
by the way.
a classic
Viking
funeral. And then Kratos puts an arm on Sindri's shoulder and tries to comfort him. And he just bats the arm away and disappears, and that's it. You don't see him again.
Also, Mimir finally coming to realization of the riddle.
Oh, I thought that was a beautiful...
It was. I was like, that
way.
was such a beautiful way for Mimir to be like
it's so
a
good.
whole.
It's amazing. Like, what is the final line of script? What do you go with? I thought it was so well done.
Yeah.
Mimir figures out the answer to
Brock's
riddle. And it's so right for that moment as well, because there is a hole. It feels like there's a hole. It's very bittersweet, isn't it?
Yeah, I knew it was
I
a
mean,
hole.
I spent the whole game going,
Yeah,
it's a
the
hole.
whole time I was like, it's a hole,
Mimir,
Mimir.
spend the
Glad.
smartest man
Mimir,
alive.
It was
Oh.
one moment where I've been really glad that I am awful at riddles, because I've never
I'm
heard
pretty
that
sure
riddle
we had it
before.
in the
I
in a
thought-
recent podcast.
I think that's how I knew it,
it's
because
like
it was
one
in
of
the
my
recent-
go-to riddles that I bring out.
I did enjoy the little riddle banter as well. When not Sindri, Mimir. My favourite one was, I'm tall when I'm young, I'm short when and Kratos just instructs, a candle. You heard that one before, but no. Did you enjoy it? No. I love that. I love it so much. Other things that happen, sort of optional stuff after the ending, you can go to Alfheim. Has everyone been to Alfheim?
Yeah.
Yes.
And you see Thrud with Mjolnir.
Yeah.
And she's training with it. She zaps off into the air with Mjolnir. Very short, very cool, and I just love the tantalizing prospect of wondering, like, where are the stories of Atreus and Angrboda and Thrud going to go now? We've got like a new generation of heroes almost.
Yeah, and I'm really glad, again, it just speaks to like the brilliance of the way that the story ends and then there's more story in the end game.
Yes.
Like, you know, because obviously Atreus has that last conversation with Thrud and she's like, I need to find something.
Yeah.
And I was just like, it's Mjolnir. And I was a bit sad not to see it. And then obviously you do see it. And I was like, I needed that. I wanted her to find it. I wanted to see it happen.
I remember thinking, I'd love it if I get as I want Mjolnir.
Yeah.
I want it. When I beat Thor, I hope I get to have it.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, I wanted that. But then seeing Thrud with it, I was like, no. Yeah, that's better.
It.
That's better.
I'll kill Thrud.
Kratos just comes up to
Then I will
Thrud,
have it.
takes it, it's like, mine.
We've got to crack on because we've got a lot to get through and not much time. Has everyone been to Niflheim? Has everyone seen the prison in Niflheim?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Ash really wants to talk about this.
I'm glad Tyr's here. I was so excited throughout all of the like trailers and everything to be like, we're meeting Tyr and he's very tall and handsome. And then it turned out it was Odin and I was angry and I hated Tyr. And then I met Tyr in the prison because it's Tyr in the prison, everyone, just so to get that clear.
The real Tyr.
The real
He's
Tyr.
fine Tyr.
I thought he was dead.
Yeah, I
thought because you get at the beginning where Mimir says, Odin told me that he'd killed Tyr.
Yeah.
I was thinking, he was telling the truth. Sorry, go on, Ash.
That just, it was good to see him. It was good to see him that he was alive and real. And it was a bit weird meeting him because I was like, you're a faker. And then I was like, wait.
It's the real one.
Yeah,
You're a faker.
Also, just, he
like
sat
dream.
the whole thing out and he's like, so what about Odin? And you're like, well, Odin's dead.
He's like, it's just meditation.
And then you see him. I don't know if you've been to anywhere else
No,
in the
I
world, but
haven't
it
been.
occasionally crops up.
Yeah.
I saw him in Vanaheim just like doing his yoga. I was like, hi, Tyr. And he's just like, hello. Just doing my stretching. So that's nice.
Yeah,
Good
I do.
for Tyr.
I like that he's still alive, that he's there, and that there's prospects for his future as well.
He's properly free now.
Yeah, to be handsome and tall wherever he wants.
It was
to be.
another bit that made me go, no way. Like, it was like a really nice little thing. And again, I'm just going to bang on about, I just think the end game is great. Like, there's all these little extra things to find that are woven in there. It's not just like, story's over and now just fight some berserkers or whatever.
So I'm going to move us back into the earlier stages of the game.
Okay.
This is something that we didn't talk about in any of our initial videos that have been on the channel because it's something that we didn't want to spoil for anyone, but now we're in the spoiler cast. What did you all make when you first got to play as Atreus? The first time that camera panned round and you're like, I'm controlling Atreus now.
I thought, am I going to be Atreus? Am I going to be Atreus? And then I was. And then I thought it was going to be a one-off little kind of mission with some like limited abilities that would be more about just, I don't know, just going and getting something. And I was sort of like, when I became Atreus, I suddenly became nervous because, Atreus does all this stuff that when I'm Kratos, he's doing all these bits and pieces, and I'm like, it's not going to let me I'm not going to have a whole new like control system. And I thought it was amazing. I thought it was so good. So much fun to play as him.
I love how you said you were nervous, whereas as soon as I was like, wee! Like, I was doing the dodge roll, but he doesn't do like Kratos' like side roll. He does a little spin, and as soon as he did that, I was like, I was spinning all over Midgard. Just like, go,
just a spinning compilation of Rosie just going around Midgard.
I was nervous in as much as, just to be clear, like I thought that it might be something that was half-hearted, or just to tick a box, to do a different thing.
It was the opposite of that,
and
though.
it was
My God.
brilliant.
It was even at the stage where when it went back to me being Kratos, I was like, I can't turn into a wolf on command anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
I can't do my amazing arrow combo that I really like. His combat is so good.
Yeah, it's great.
It's so well realised. And it's incredible, in terms of the total playtime, maybe 2 or 3 hours you spend as Atreus in the game. The fact they put so much effort into the combat system for Atreus. Ingrid, the sword. I love Ingrid so much.
Ingrid was lovely.
So cool. But just that whole different rage bit where you, instead of Spartan rage, he transforms into the wolf.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing. And that moment in Ragnarok as well where Sindri's in danger and you transform into the bear. And you're like, just... Also, the finisher in the Kristen Mist Valkyrie fight.
Yes.
Where they both rage at the same time.
Yes.
Atreus goes into a bear and Kratos activates Spartan rage. What a way to finish that fight. That was so good.
The killing of Odin with all three of them jumping in,
Yeah.
it's just
Everyone has a
like
go.
It
pressure
really
square,
did. It was like
yeah.
a perfect bit that goes further to how
Yeah.
it went. I couldn't get my words out then. You know, at the end of the first one, it's Kratos and Atreus
Yeah.
doing like their combo finisher on
Yes.
Balder, and now it's Kratos and Atreus and Freya
Yeah.
all doing like a little combo finisher on
Yeah.
Odin.
I wanted
Yeah.
them to get Mimir
Amazing.
and just stab him with a horn.
He should have thrown him.
Why have they
horns
never thrown him
first.
here? Why has he never launched from here?
I tell you what, you saying you were nervous about the Atreus section. I was nervous, but for the reason that I thought, oh my God, they're setting us to take over for Kratos because he's going to die. Like, that was it.
Right.
Because I was like, the
Yeah.
prophecy is true. Like, I thought it was another way that backed up their own storytelling. Like, in a, you know, the gameplay backed up the storytelling, which I thought was really clever because it's like, okay, this is making me have presumptions and thoughts. My whole thought the whole way through was that, like Jormungandr, Kratos would go into some sort of time shift because he's been through time before.
Yes.
So I thought he was going to die, and then they would figure out a way to like pull him back through time, and he'd come back to life.
Or use a marble, you know, like some giant
Yes.
magic to
Yeah.
marble him
Like,
into something else.
I thought it was all spelled out that he was definitely going to die, but that death didn't mean the end, especially with Mimir talking about the direction of souls and the light of Alfheim and all, and like, you know, Faye being around for a while before she was absorbed by the light. Like, there was loads of little references to death and how it isn't the end. And I was like, oh, oh. And then Atreus comes out and you can use his bow and arrow, and I was like, oh no, better get used to this.
Talking about the timey-wimey stuff.
Yeah.
And I like how they didn't explicitly hold your hand and explain all of this, but we got to see the origin of Jormungandr,
Yeah.
which I thought was amazing. And it's something I didn't figure out until a later conversation with Angerboda, where you see her, I think, in Muspelheim, and she's like, oh, that snake's getting really big, by the way.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, it's Jormungandr, because, you know, there's loads of conversation in the 2018 God of War about how Jormungandr did battle with Thor, and everyone's like, how? Ragnarok hasn't happened yet. You know, the way giants perceive time is obviously not linear. It doesn't you know, you get to work that stuff out for yourself, and I really enjoyed that. And the Jormungandr you see in Ragnarok battling Thor isn't the isn't the same form of Jormungandr that you've interacted with in the past. It's like an earlier version of Jormungandr.
Also, that was like, you know, when you're role playing, I guess I'm like, come on, Ragnarok's happening, and then I was like, oh my God, look at Jormungandr and Thor.
I paused right, like, when I saw you, I was like, it's Jormungandr,
It's the snake.
It is one of those moments where you're just like, looking around
Literally,
everywhere.
I stood there. The rest of Ragnarok could be on hold for a bit, and I just looked at him like being a badass in the background, and I took a little screenshot as well. I was just like, there he is. There's my boy being great.
Moment.
Oh, as soon as that little snake got a marble put in, you know, I was messaging Rob going, like, because I was like, it's the Norse mythology goes that what's his face? Atreus, Loki and Angerboda have 3 children that are like their main children. One being the world serpent Jormungandr. So it was nice to see them create him in that kind of way, like putting the soul into Jormungandr the snake. The other is Fenrir the massive wolf. So that was nice to see Loki create him by putting him into Garm. Like when Fenrir died at the beginning, I was like, why have they used the name here? I don't understand.
I loved Big Fenrir though. There's that scene where Atreus is talking, I can't remember, they're talking, and you just in the background, Fenrir slowly gets closer and closer with his big little nose. His big little nose. His big eyes and his big furry snout.
He's
I love
adorable.
Fenrir.
I liked Garm as well, just being savage,
Garm's
crazy
great.
wolf.
All of that was great.
I did think it was pretty brave for us to kill even a big dog. So I was like, my God, I can't believe that we've killed a big dog. People will be sad about this. But then it's fine because
It's all
actually
fine.
it's
And no dogs die.
No dogs die.
In God of War Ragnarok.
That's
It turns
true.
out our tears were in vain 10 minutes in. And there is a third child, isn't there, Ash? And we're going to talk about that. But it's not something... It could be something that happens...
Well,
who knows?
But we can hear the legend.
if I could get it out. So I was really interested in this because I can't remember the name, but the corpse swallower in hell, the giant bird. Hrasvragar. When I was riding around on my sleigh afterwards, you get a little bit of information, a little bit of talk from Freya and Mimir, who say that they've spoken to Hrasvragar, and she said, I fancy retiring.
Yes.
and that someone needs to take the place of looking over hell and be the new corpse swallower. And Atreus and Angrboda's
Just see that on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Vacancy, corpse swallower.
So Loki and Angrboda's third child is Hel, is like the Hel, the woman, like the overwatcher of Hell. So to have like Hel kind of mentioned and spoken about in this roundabout way, where it's not the woman that's residing over it. I say woman, she's a massive bird called the corpse swallower, but it's not her at the moment. But there's room for them to fill that position, to have something there. The Caesar lane for all the Caesar-sode for all the little Norse myth nerds to be like, delicious.
Gobble up these seeds. I think another thing I want to talk about, and I don't know how much anyone has explored this area yet, but my favourite place in the whole game is the crater in Vanaheim, which opens up quite late in the game, and it's full of optional explorable things. And this area just expands and expands and expands, and the more you explore it, and you wouldn't think like extra areas come available. There's so many interlinking puzzles and side quests and epic fights to do in this area. It's so good. Yes. I love the crater. Has anyone explored the crater?
I had a little look around, and there was some sea air magic where I got around one bit, and all clear was.
Oh my god, is they the ones that talk? Because literally, so I was doing that moment, and my boyfriend, he came in, and he was just like, "Why are you listening to that song?" I was like, "Which song?" It was like the one that goes, "Oh." Because they're always there, just like and stuff, and I was like, I'm not listening to the song, but ever since now, I can't like not find those enemies. I just go, every time I see
down
them.
with the sickness, are we, lads? With all of the green smoke coming out. Yeah, I was going around that bit in the crater, and it's when you go through some caves and are trying to find the jump up to get to the bowl where you can change the weather, the
time of day,
and where your mystic gateway is and everything. And you can just hear them going, "Wah, wah, wah," and that just like got me there for hours, because I was like, I need to find this guy that's singing and shut him up.
Yeah, there's lots of puzzly bits there, and once you finally sort of work everything out, and it all just it's amazing. But in the middle of the crater, there's another frozen thunderbolt, which is the main thing that's there. And I don't know if any of you remember in the initial fight with Thor, right at the beginning of the game, as soon as that frozen thunderbolt appears, Thor says, "This looks familiar." And it's like a little offhand remark, and Kratos is like, "What are you talking about?" And Thor says, "It doesn't matter." And they continue their fight. But it looks familiar because there's another one in Vanaheim, another frozen thunderbolt. And all of the side quests you do in that area slowly reveal the story of how that frozen thunderbolt appeared.
That's cool.
I know you're going to spoil it for us now.
Well, I'd like to talk about it. I wanted to talk about it, but if you haven't explored it yet, I'll just say go and explore it.
Yeah, I was saving Vanaheim for last. Like, I've completed Alfheim, I've completed Jotunheim, because you just go and pick up a flower. I've completed Midgard, and then I'm going around the other ones, and then I'm going to do Vanaheim, and then probably Muspelheim Trials. So Vanaheim was my last one, because there's so much to do there. I wanted to have
so much to do. I had a moment where I was doing like the crater area and stuff, just before I was kind of finishing the story, and when I saw that the crater even then expanded to even more space, I was I was like, I'm sorry, I have to come back to you, crater. I was like, I'm going to have to come back to you. I've got to finish the story first.
I haven't seen this crater. I'm expecting big things.
It's amazing. It reminds me. It reminds me of. It almost feels like in its structure, like a Souls-like game. In that this area you're exploring, just it goes and expands further than you would initially expect it to. Like you get through one area, and you're like, oh my god, there's this whole other area here, and the way it all sort of links back on itself, and how you can dive further into it and open shortcuts to previous areas, and how it's full of really tough bosses and mini bosses and extra fights and dragons.
Oh, that dragon! Every time I popped in, I was just like, "Go away, go away!"
It's amazing.
I love him.
It's such a good area to. It's almost like we're really being spoiled with it. Like there's so many cool areas to explore in the game anyway. And there's a whole other bit of Vanaheim as well, by the way. Here you go, enjoy it. Oh, it's brilliant. So definitely go and sink your teeth into that.
Can we talk about something from earlier in the game?
We are very short on time. But what would you like to talk about?
I just want to say how cool the Nidhogg fight was.
Oh, I was gonna, well, my final wrap up was going to be just what was your favourite fight?
Okay, there you go. Nidhogg.
It was amazing.
Loved it. I thought it was really cleverly designed. I thought it was like frantic but still tactical and strategic. And after seeing at the beginning where you look over the edge and Atreus is like, oh, what are those? So they look like dragons. And I was like, oh my God, it's Nidhogg chewing on the roots of the world tree. Yggdrasil, like in the start of Ragnarok when she and all, like I was going Neil Gaiman's Norse mythology, and then she actually pops out to protect the roots, and you have to behead her with a realm tear.
Oh my God, it's amazing.
So good.
In the video that I made where I was mentioning like a bit that happened 15 hours in that had me wanting to stand up and applaud, it was that bit.
Yeah.
It's not just the fight though, it's like the scene between Freya and Kratos afterwards. I thought was amazing, that moment where Freya's like, now's the point, I guess, where I have to decide whether I'm going to forgive you or kill you. And Kratos just stands there. Have you decided? It's so well done. And it's not like that usual thing you might expect from a video game where it's like, oh, you've helped me defeat that boss now. All is forgiven. Yeah. Like, Freya has not forgiven him. Yeah. But she's reached a stage where she's prepared to align with Kratos for a bit because they share a common goal.
The friend of my enemy, the enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Yes.
That's the one. It's around there somewhere. Yeah.
Just Nidhogg though, she's just so good. The design as well. I just need to sit with her for a moment because it was such a good fight and it's such a good creature and her babies are adorable.
You can go and sit with her headless corpse if you like.
Yeah, you can later.
I did. I took some pictures because I was like, I want a picture of Nidhogg, and I was like, well, I'll just have to do it with her.
I loved the moment at the beginning of the fight, which really made me like, it comes out of nowhere. You're like, oh my God, help me, please. Yeah. Kratos holds its mouth open. Yes. Freya flies through in her bird form. Yeah. And then launches herself back in her Vanir form. Yeah. And you're like, yes, let's fight this thing. And the whole time I was on the brink of death through that fight. I somehow always managed to pick up a health thing, just keep myself alive. And the way you finish it off, it tries to escape. And it's like, oh God, and it tries to escape, and Kratos, no, we must not allow it to escape, and you decapitate it with a closing realm tear. Amazing.
She didn't need to die, but it was a cool death. Like, if you gotta go, you better go cool. All the little babies that you collect as well, they give you a little nibble. I'm like, oh, yeah, like,
give you a little, go on, nibble at me arm, go on,
nibble. Oh God, it was so good. It's one of my favourite video game moments in recent memory. Like, I just love that bit. Now you guys.
My favourite is it like a boss fight or just a fight? I mean, no, mine's a boss fight.
We've got to wrap up very soon.
Okay, I'll just say mine's the first fight with Thor.
Yeah.
That was great.
I love that one. I was fully tricked as well by it. That's all I'll say to wrap up my point.
The resuscitation. Sorry, no, we need to go into that because that was
then we do.
hard as nails when you die, and then Thor talks over the screen is like, "You're not finished yet.
Yeah, I'm not done with you," or something.
And then defibrillates him with his Mjolnir.
That was great. That was amazing.
Yeah.
That's my favourite boss fight.
Yeah.
Well, Dave.
Oh, I don't know. I'm ill prepared somehow. Don't know. They're good, aren't they? I like both of those. They're all good. I can't think of one.
The one that made me angriest was Heimdall. I've never wanted to kill anyone in a game as much as I wanted to kill him.
It took me
finally when you do
ages
the bit
to figure it out. Yeah. Like I was just like, I know it's to do with my spear. Why I can't, he doesn't really do that much damage to you either. Like, and so I was trying to bat him off, like parry, and I was like, that's not working. What is it? It took me ages to just like, well, I was launching spears at his feet, and then like that was getting him.
Tripping him up. Yeah.
Right, yeah. And then you get into it.
I was going straight for his smarmy little mouth. I was like, spear.
He is probably one of the like bosses that I most wanted to kill.
Yes. Really
out of
wanted
all of
him
them
down.
Like, I really was looking
from the
forward
moment
to him
you meet
being
him
dead.
as well when he hauls Atreus over the wall in Asgard. Yeah. Immediately like, oh, this guy.
Eating his apple or something, and he's just like, nom, nom, nom. I'm on the wall, you're not on the wall.
Yeah. Great. I also really enjoyed fighting him like just with other weapons that I knew wouldn't hit him, just to see him go like, like the Matrix. I was like, this is quite cool. Anyway,
but what a game, though! What a game. Well, there we go. There's our very first.
What was your favourite bit?
Spoiler, Needhog.
Needhog as
Needhog
well.
again, yeah. Or Neathog, as they
Neathog,
pronounce it in the
yeah.
game, sorry. There's our very first spoiler cast, diving into lots of stuff in God of War Ragnarok. There's still so much more in the game. So many optional cool stuff. Go and explore the crater in Vanaheim. It's incredible. Please discuss in the comments if you're watching this on YouTube. You know, tell us about what you made of the ending. Tell us about your favourite boss fight. We just want a place where everyone can discuss without having to worry about spoiling it for people who haven't finished it yet.
It's been exciting for us as well because we've also been like messaging each other like, where are you in the game? Like we're trying not. So this is the first time that we've openly just been like, this bit in the game.
Such a fun game to talk about.
Yeah.
But thank you very much, everyone, for sharing your thoughts. I've realised something I didn't realise before with the whole Odin lying in the position from the prophecy thing. That's blown my mind a little bit. Thank you very much for your smart interpretation.
Smartest man on
I
earth.
just didn't see it. I didn't see it. And yes, join us again soon for loads more amazing content from the world of PlayStation. Thank you very much for watching and listening. Goodbye.
PlayStation